12 feet high, with iron hinges, and when Al Martin had opened it for us, I had been greeted by a sight that had taken my breath away. That is, I had sucked in my breath and had held it until I'd remembered to let it out and breathe. It was the most magnificent residential foyer I had ever seen, with a black iron chandelier dangling from above and a view of a grand wooden staircase. A quick tour revealed the downstairs alone housed a living room, formal dining room, kitchen, hearth room, library, conservatory, and 2 stone fireplaces. Of course, the house was also falling apart. The beautiful pink and yellow Art Deco print wallpaper in the dining room was held up by duct tape. The hardwood floors were stained, scratched, and streaky white from water damage, and a few of the downstairs windows were cracked and covered with plastic sheeting. Perhaps most distressing, in the middle of the dining room ceiling, there was a hole through which one could see up to a spare room above. Apparently a chandelier had fallen, taking much of the ceiling with it, and no one had bothered to replace it or patch up the ceiling/floor. A few of the walls seemed to be crumbling in on themselves, as plaster layered the damaged floors like breadcrumbs from decades of white toast. But all this shabbiness was part of the house's charm. It looked like the ancient manor home of an English aristocrat who had come upon hard times. I was falling. I had fallen. I was in love.
"Has anyone ever told you that you look like Jean Shrimpton?"
Al Martin asked. In fact, quite a few people had told me I looked like the famous model from the 1960s, with her light brown hair, doe eyes, arched brows, and wide lips. But not for many years. I shrugged, though I was pleased, even as I knew the real estate agent was doing his best to sell us the house.
"The first supermodel, the original it girl. You could bring back that glamour to this estate. You two must have beautiful children. Do you have children?"
I glanced at Jack, and this time he looked up at me and then quickly looked away. I used to say, not yet, but I was getting old, 37, and I was afraid that the hopefulness that statement implied would begin to result in pity. The truth was, I was a sort of half-mother, a ghost mother. I had a few dead fetuses, but that wasn't what people meant when they asked. "No," I said. Al Martin, a real pro, simply nodded.
"There are 7 bedrooms." "7?"
Jack exclaimed. "That's a lucky number," I assured him. Al Martin looked uncertain, but said,
"Sure it is. Of course, some could be made into studies, guest rooms. Apparently, the 3rd-floor attic was used as a ballroom as well as for circus practices."
"Well, that'd be useful," Jack muttered.
"I should also mention that the Circus Society is willing to let some of the furniture come with the house."
He said this as if it were a favor, but I suspected that most of the furniture would not be up to the standards of the Salvation Army's pickup truck. And yet, they were certainly up to mine. Would the society include the worn farm-style table in the kitchen? The wobbly dining chairs with their faded seats depicting ancient roses? The ornate secretary in the library with feet gnawed by hungry mice? Shabby, threadbare, damaged. I wanted it all.
"Would you like to go upstairs first or see the basement?"
Jack came over and put his arm around me, then squeezed my shoulder. He knew I didn't do basements. Was he feeling protective of me from the reference to children? Or was he simply showing Al Martin that we were a united front, ready to wheel and deal and make something happen immediately? I almost said, "We'll take it," but Jack spoke first.
"I'd like to see the basement."
While the men went downstairs, I opened the back door and walked into the backyard. It was late afternoon, mid-September, one of those perfect early fall days when you feel that life is brimming with possibility. I stepped onto the brick patio, stared at the ivy growing on the stone walls, and knew this was the house I was meant to have. I felt as if something were pulling at me, as if the house and I were both magnetized, and it was drawing me toward it. Now that I'd seen this forsaken mansion...